Welcome to District 32, immersion, inspiration for ambitious business owners with big dreams.
Hello, I'm Lorraine of District 32. I'm here for part 3 in our growth and expansion series with Dinesh Agarwal of Fortuna Advisory Group. How are you, Dinesh?
I'm very well, thanks, Lorraine. And yourself?
Great, thank you. I'm learning lots from interviewing you. This is part 3. Part 1 was around, when to franchise, what to look out for. Part 2 was around organic growth, what's important to achieve organic growth, what to look out for, the important parts within that plan. But this part, I'm particularly excited because it's really interesting to watch your journey around acquisitions and using acquisition as a growth and expansion strategy, of which you're using yourself, Dinesh. Tell us about acquisitions. When do we look at making acquisitions? When should we not be looking at acquisitions? And what sort of tips can you give us in the process, having done it yourself?
Thank you, Lorraine. Definitely. Thanks for having me back. It's been sort of exciting talking on this subject because this is one of my favorite subjects, just the growth journey. It excites me. We've discussed sort of various models, franchising and organic growth, and talking about growth via acquisition is definitely an important aspect of the entire sort of puzzle of growth journeys. Now we have taken a combination of organic and acquisition growth strategies, and that generally is sort of the way, because even if you are heavily acquisition focused, if you ignore the organic growth component, I think it sort of doesn't make sense, because it's kind of having a leaking bucket. So you're putting a lot of capital in the game to acquire. But if you don't have your business set up in a way where it can handle your existing business and servicing your existing clients and customers, which comes from the focus when you're running an organic growth, because you're a lot conscious about how you're going to acquire a customer, how you're going to retain a customer, and how you're going to service a customer. So if that culture is missing, then acquiring more businesses is definitely going to have a leaking bucket element to it, because you're bringing all that sort of more customers into your business, but perhaps not being able to service or retain them in the way you would have. So the business could have a detriment. So there's a lot of, and I'm not saying that it's always perfect. You learn along the way. We've made mistakes. We've never been perfect in sort of making our business, in a perfect form. You learn a lot along the way. But if you are quite ambitious in terms of achieving a certain size, a certain target, a certain presence, organic growth is definitely going to be a slow process. So if we give our own example, we set ourselves a target about 8 years ago. We want to reach a top 100 accounting firm milestone within 8 to 10 years. And with a lot of our research and a lot of planning and strategic understanding from where we were as a tiny, small little accounting firm in Joondalup, that was a mammoth task and would have been sort of overambitious and maybe not possible just purely based on an organic growth. So you need to be realistic. If you're setting a certain target, that what are the realistic parameters to be able to achieve it? So if you've done that and you understand that that acquisitions is going to form part of your journey of target growth, then of course you need to bring that in your planning. So, and it is very much same kind of planning when what sort of you need to grow your business organic. So you're looking at the market size, what sort of customers are available, how you're going to orient and prepare your business, the resources, the capital, and everything else. Similarly, when you're going into an acquisition target, and that's where if it's a seller's market, I mean, it could be a buyer's market where a lot of businesses are coming out for sale, and the buyer has the buying power to negotiate the type of business he wants to take on and on its own terms, maybe hospitality and things like that. Whereas if it's a hot, sort of service industry, whether it's, you call it accounting or legal or insurance or something which is sort of hot IT, so then, I mean, of course, the seller has a discretion whom they want to sell it to. There's a lot of client relationships that come with it. So you need to marry up the culture. A lot of fit has to be sort of managed. So it's not just that you go out and shop and pick and choose. So you have to sort of target. You have to have multiple discussions and relationships. You have to prove your capability of being able to acquire and retain the business. And it's not that you just start a conversation and you don't have the financial capability, the technical capability, and the service orientation to be able to handle that purchase, because the seller has built up a business with the name and a reputation and a loyal customer base. They have a more sort of emotional element to it on top of, they're selling and getting their lifetime saving out of it. So it is very heavily capital intensive, of course, as you know. So you need to plan how you're going to arrange that capital. Of course, the first thought comes to mind that we're going to go to the banks, but banks won't sort of lend their hand straight on every acquisition. Again, it's very industry specific. A lot of times they need a security. So if a business is of the nature which has an underlying security in terms of physical assets, some of the goodwill would be considered by the bank because they are in a reputable industry. They are quality franchise industries, or they are some highly reputable service industries like accounting, insurance, legal, and things like that. So you have to see how much capital would be available through debt funding from the banks, and it's never going to be 100%. So you have to have your own capital required to be able to make it. So that first step can't start with the capital acquisition. So you need to build a bit of a mass, unless you got plenty of cash, inheritance or something, stacked away. And
got lucky. Yeah.
Lucky, yeah, that's right. Or you had some sort of silver spoon. Okay, well, I'm going to go out and do some shopping. Otherwise, any sort of entrepreneurial journey, you're taking the baby steps, you're establishing yourself, you're trying to save some money, you're creating a bit of a capital, and then, you take that first step of a small acquisition, take the banks into confidence, prove your strength and capabilities and your track record and history. And of course, the reputation comes with it. I mean, if that's an industry where the seller is going to measure you on. So once you've ticked all those sort of boxes, you put the whole thing together, you start your target sort of process, have the conversations, and then sort of various steps involved from there onwards. And that again is, I mean, I wouldn't go into too much detail, because then, okay, you having what's the sort of whole process, starting from term sheets and heads of agreements and going into, contractual part of it, and then due diligence, and then sort of settlement. So that's all legal, and compliance process starts from there.
I think it would be great to have an interview around that at a later date, though.
That's right.
That would be great.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I said. It's it's another interview if we have to go into that details. But it is very important, the whole process, because a lot of things can go wrong in that entire process. So you need to be sort of quite mindful of and be prepared for that.
So Dinesh, again, lots of insights in there around, we have to have some organic growth anyway, or be able to sustain ourselves through organic growth. Buying a business or acquiring a business is not about picking one from a website and then making the purchase. You really have to be able to prove yourself. People who are selling are typically looking for a good relationship and knowing that you're going to look after their customers and their clients. Make sure that you have some sort of stability within your own business to be able to acquire capital or to go and look at some fundraising so that you can, make these acquisitions. And then it's about relationships. How do you start that conversation to earn some trust to be able to go into the negotiation stages of a business?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the fun really starts. It's the actual.
Yeah, that's right.
I would actually really like to interview you. That I'm really interested on the whole the issues that are going to arise on acquiring a new business and introducing yourself to new staff and new, what is it like in regional? How are you accepted? What's it like introducing yourself to the client? I'd really love to. Yeah, can we pencil that in now for another interview?
Yeah,
that would be great. But look,
my favorite topic. I can keep talking on it.
That's fantastic. It only takes one idea or one insight from a listener, to change the direction of their business. And it all comes back to ambition as well. What was your ambition? I love your story on there when you're talking about you're this little pinhead of a business with a big ambition, but look where you are now. It's, you're there, you're nailing it. So listen, Dinesh, thank you very much. The insights that you've shared around this growth and expansion series have been absolutely phenomenal. Yet again, you're making a difference to business owners who are listening and watching. You're making a difference to me. I can then go and quote you for all the tips that we are learning. But thank you very much for sharing your knowledge, your time and your wisdom.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. My pleasure. Thank you.
I look forward to the next series. Thank you, Dinesh.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to District 32, Immersion, inspiration for ambitious business owners with big dreams.